There are moments in life when everything changes. For some people, that moment comes in a hospital room, hooked up to machines, wondering if their dream is about to end before it truly begins. For Chris Bumstead, that moment came 6 weeks before the biggest competition of his life, when doctors told him he had an incurable disease that could end his bodybuilding career at any moment. But this story doesn't start there. Nah, it starts in a small town in Ottawa, Canada, with a skinny 14-year-old kid who had no idea he would one day be called the greatest classic physique bodybuilder of all time. February 2nd, 1995. Chris Bumstead entered the world in Ottawa, Ontario, into an ordinary middle-class family. There were no signs of greatness, no Olympic athletes in the family tree, no bodybuilding legends mentoring him from childhood. Just a regular kid growing up in Canada, playing sports, going to school, living a normal life. But when he walked into a gym for the first time at 14 years old during his first year of high school, something clicked inside him. It wasn't love at first sight. It wasn't even about building muscle. It was simply something to do, a way to get stronger, maybe impress some people at school. Nobody could have predicted what would happen next. Between grade 9 and grade 12, Chris transformed his body from 170 pounds to 225 pounds of solid muscle. His classmates watched in disbelief as this teenager packed on size year after year, walking through the hallways looking like he belonged in a college weight room, not a high school cafeteria. People started asking questions. What are you doing? What are you eating? Are you taking something? But Chris wasn't following some secret program. He was just a kid who loved lifting weights, eating everything in sight, and watching his body respond in ways that seemed almost superhuman. By the time he graduated high school, he looked like a professional athlete, even though he had never competed in anything. After high school, Chris enrolled at Dalhousie University in Halifax, Nova Scotia, studying physical health sciences. He wanted to understand the body, learn about fitness, maybe become a trainer, or work in the health industry. But university life pulled him in different directions. He worked at a gym. He worked at a supplement store. He went to parties. He lived the typical college experience, balancing work, school, and social life, while still hitting the gym consistently. He had muscle, he had size, but he had no direction. He was just a jacked college kid with no real plan, no vision for the future, and certainly no thoughts of becoming a professional bodybuilder. That all changed because of one person, someone who saw something in Chris that he couldn't see in himself. His sister Melissa was dating a guy named Iain Valliere, an IFBB professional bodybuilder who had years of experience competing at the highest levels. Iain looked at Chris and immediately recognized something special. The genetics, the structure, the muscle bellies, the way his body responded to training. Iain saw a future champion standing right in front of him, wasting his potential working random jobs and partying through university. So Iain approached him with a simple question. Have you ever thought about competing? Chris laughed it off at first. Competing? Him? He was just a guy who liked lifting weights. But Iain persisted, explaining what he saw, breaking down the potential, painting a picture of what could be possible if Chris took this seriously. Finally, Chris agreed to give it a shot. He had no idea that decision would change his entire life. In 2014, at just 19 years old, Chris Bumstead stepped on stage for the first time at a regional Ontario bodybuilding show. He had trained for months under Iain's guidance, learning how to pose, how to diet, how to present himself on stage. But nothing prepares you for that first moment under the lights, standing in front of judges, being compared to other competitors who have years of experience. Chris felt the nerves, the pressure, the uncertainty. Then the results came in. He won. Not just his class, the overall title. His sister Melissa competed in the same show and also won. 2 siblings, first competition, both champions. It was the kind of debut that makes people in the bodybuilding community take notice. Coaches started asking who he was, competitors started watching him, and Chris realized that maybe, just maybe, he had found his calling. 2 years later, at 21 years old, Chris earned his IFBB professional card by winning the 2016 IFBB North American Bodybuilding Championship. This wasn't just a regional show anymore. This was the gateway to the big leagues, the moment when amateur becomes professional, when the hobby becomes a career. Most bodybuilders take years, sometimes decades, to earn their pro card. Chris did it in 2 years. He was now eligible to compete at the highest level of bodybuilding, including the Mr. Olympia, the Super Bowl of bodybuilding, the competition that crowns the best physiques on the planet. But Chris wasn't satisfied with just turning pro. He wanted to prove he belonged at the top. In 2017, Chris entered the IFBB Pittsburgh Pro and won. Then he entered the Toronto Pro Super Show and won again. 2 professional victories in his first year as a pro. The bodybuilding world was buzzing. Who is this kid from Canada? Where did he come from? How is he beating veterans who have been competing for years? But the real test was coming. The 2017 Mr. Olympia, the biggest stage in bodybuilding. Chris was entered in the Classic Physique division, a category that celebrates the aesthetics and proportions of the golden era of bodybuilding, inspired by legends like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Frank Zane. Chris walked on that stage for his Olympia debut and placed second, losing only to the reigning champion Breon Ansley. Second place at the Olympia in his first attempt. Most bodybuilders never even qualify for the Olympia. Chris nearly won it in his debut, but 2018 would test him in ways no competition ever could. 6 weeks before the Mr. Olympia, Chris woke up one morning and noticed something was wrong. His body was holding water, not the normal water retention that bodybuilders deal with during prep. This was different. His legs were swollen, his face was puffy. He felt off, sick, wrong. He tried to push through, thinking it was just stress or diet related. But it got worse, much worse. His coach told him to go to the hospital immediately. Chris spent 3 nights in the emergency room, hooked up to IVs, undergoing tests, while doctors tried to figure out what was happening to his body. The diagnosis came back like a punch to the gut. IGA Nephropathy, an autoimmune kidney disease, incurable, unpredictable, potentially career-ending. The doctors explained it to him in terms that made his stomach drop. His immune system was attacking his kidneys. The disease caused severe water retention that could flare up at any time, making it nearly impossible to come into competition shape. They had to perform a kidney biopsy, inserting a 16-gauge needle into his back to extract tissue for testing. Chris lay there on the hospital bed, 6 weeks away from the Mr. Olympia, wondering if his bodybuilding career was over before it really started. He was 23 years old, at the peak of his physical abilities, and his own body was betraying him. Most people would have quit right there. Most people would have taken the diagnosis as a sign to walk away, to protect their health, to find a different path. Chris Bumstead is not most people. He left the hospital, went back to training, and made a decision that would define his entire career. He was going to compete at the 2018 Mr. Olympia no matter what. The doctors warned him, his family worried, his coaches were concerned. But Chris had developed something inside himself that most people never find. A mentality that pain is temporary, that setbacks are setups for comebacks, that pressure is a privilege. He had read a book by Tim Grover called Relentless, the mindset coach who trained Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. One phrase stuck with him like glue. Pressure is a privilege. Chris repeated it to himself every day. When the training hurt, when the diet was unbearable, when his body wasn't responding the way it should, pressure is a privilege. He showed up to the 2018 Mr. Olympia and placed second again, proving that even a life-threatening disease couldn't stop him from being one of the best in the world. Then came 2019, the year everything changed. Chris stepped on the Mr. Olympia stage in peak condition, his physique refined, his posing flawless, his confidence unshakable. When they called his name as the winner, he had achieved what most bodybuilders only dream about: Mr. Olympia champion. He earned $30,000 for that victory, but the money was nothing compared to what it represented. He was the best classic physique bodybuilder on the planet, and he was just getting started. He won again in 2020. Then 2021, where the prize money increased to $50,000. Then 2022, then 2023, then 2024. 6 consecutive Mr. Olympia titles, 6 years of being unbeatable. Only 8 professional contests in his entire career, never finishing worse than second place. Ronnie Coleman, an 8-time Mr. Olympia champion and one of the greatest bodybuilders in history, said it publicly. "I think Chris Bumstead is the greatest classic bodybuilder of all time." Judge Tarek El Guindi went even further. "Chris Bumstead has exploded the sport. We will remember him just like we remember Arnold Schwarzenegger." This wasn't just about winning competitions anymore. This was about legacy, about changing the sport, about inspiring an entire generation. But the titles and trophies only tell part of the story. What most people don't understand is how Chris built an empire while he was dominating on stage. In 2019, he co-founded Raw Nutrition alongside Dr. Dominic Iacovone and coach Matt Jansen. It started as a simple idea: create high-quality supplements that actually work, backed by science, promoted by someone people trust. Chris launched his signature line called Thavage, including pre-workout and protein supplements that became instant bestsellers. Bodybuilders and fitness enthusiasts didn't just buy the products because Chris endorsed them. They bought them because they actually delivered results. Raw Nutrition exploded. Within a few years, it was recognized as the #1 fastest-growing sports nutrition company by Incaturdor 5000. GNC and Vitamin Shoppe named it Brand of the Year. By 2024, Raw Nutrition was generating approximately $150 million in annual revenue. In 2025, the company partnered with the Quality Group, backed by CVC Capital Partners, one of the largest private equity firms in the world. Chris Bumstead, the kid from Ottawa who worked at a supplement store in college, now owned a supplement empire worth tens of millions of dollars. His estimated net worth sits somewhere between $5 and $12 million, depending on the source. But those numbers are likely conservative, given his business holdings and partnerships. He didn't stop with supplements. Chris launched BUM Energy, his own energy drink brand, tapping into the booming functional beverage market. He grew his YouTube channel to over 4 million subscribers, generating estimated monthly revenue between $10,000 and $230,000 just from ad revenue alone, not including sponsorships and brand deals. His Instagram following surpassed 25 million people, making him one of the most influential fitness personalities on the planet. In September 2024, he announced a partnership with Gymshark, not just as a sponsored athlete, but as a part owner of the company. Every business move he made was calculated, strategic, building a financial foundation that would outlast his competitive career. But perhaps the most important chapter of Chris Bumstead's story has nothing to do with money or titles. It's about the mindset that got him there. Chris has always been open about the mental side of success, sharing his philosophy with millions of followers who look to him for motivation. He often quotes one of his favorite principles: winning doesn't happen on show days. It happens in early mornings, painful workouts, long cardio sessions, and hungry nights. He preaches that having a champion mentality isn't about the trophies, medals, or success. It's about having no quit. It's about showing up when nobody is watching. It's about doing the work when there's no applause, no recognition, no reward except the knowledge that you gave everything you had. Chris also emphasizes self-compassion, a concept many people overlook in the pursuit of success. He talks about healing mentally and emotionally, not just physically. He shares his struggles openly, from his kidney disease to the pressure of staying on top year after year. He doesn't pretend to be invincible. He doesn't hide his vulnerabilities. Instead, he shows people that strength isn't about being perfect. It's about being resilient. It's about getting knocked down and choosing to stand back up. It's about embracing adversity as an opportunity for growth, rather than something to avoid. On October 13, 2024, Chris Bumstead stepped on the Mr. Olympia stage for what he announced would be his final competition. He won his 6th title, cementing his legacy as the most dominant classic physique competitor in history. Then he walked away. At 29 years old, at the peak of his career, still unbeatable, still the best in the world, he chose to retire on his own terms. Most champions hold on too long, competing past their prime, watching younger competitors surpass them, clinging to the glory of the past. Chris did the opposite. He left while he was still on top, leaving people wanting more, preserving his perfect record, protecting his health, and choosing to focus on the next chapter of his life. That next chapter includes being a father. On April 22, 2024, his daughter Bradley was born, a moment Chris described as more meaningful than any competition victory. He's engaged to Courtney King, the 2016 Bikini Olympia champion, building a life beyond the stage. He's expanding his business empire, exploring new opportunities, and continuing to inspire millions of people around the world through his content, his transparency, and his authenticity. The rise of Chris Bumstead is not just a bodybuilding story. It's a story about vision, about seeing potential where others see ordinary. It's about resilience, about fighting through diseases and setbacks that would have ended most people's careers. It's about mentality, about choosing to see pressure as a privilege rather than a burden. It's about legacy, about building something that lasts far beyond the trophies and titles. And most importantly, it's about knowing when to walk away, when to choose health and family and long-term fulfillment over short-term glory. From a skinny 14-year-old in Ottawa to the greatest classic physique bodybuilder of all time. From working at a supplement store to owning a $150 million nutrition company. From hospital beds and incurable diseases to 6 Mr. Olympia titles. From zero to champion. That's the rise of Chris Bumstead, and his story is far from over.